Hi, this is 100 and 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Today we are looking at VR Ping Pong Pro. VR Ping Pong Pro is a brand new game that came out this week, and we are anxious to get in and review it with you today. Our VR Gear game reviews cover as many aspects of the game as possible so that you can make an informed decision before you try or buy one of these VR titles. VR Ping Pong Pro was a very interesting new game to try out with a lot of potential, so let's jump right in to getting up and running with VR Ping Pong Pro. You'll be able to find VR Ping Pong Pro on the Steam Store, the Vive Store, as part of the Viveport Infinity Store, and on PSVR. It's currently on sale for $19.99 on the Steam Store, but it is $24.99 in the Vive Store and the PSVR Store. But it's free as part of your Viveport Infinity subscription. The download file for this one is 5 gigabytes, which is going to take a good amount of time to download, but once the download completes, installation happens automatically, and then you can jump into the main menu of the game to start playing. The main menu of the game, what seems to be a garage with a ping pong table inside. The menu off to your left will give you the options to rotate your paddle, tilt your paddle, or change which hand you will use the paddle in. These options were very welcome because sometimes when you hold a VR controller, it doesn't mimic a ping pong paddle handle, so having the options to rotate how the paddle is held in the game without having to rotate how you hold your controller in the real world is a very welcome addition. Once you have configured your ping pong paddle, you'll jump into the game menu where you can pick different game modes, where you're able to pick the difficulty and the environment that you're playing in. These environments are quite scenic and immersive, and they're fun to play in. And this was actually the highlight of the game for us, being able to pick these different places where you could play ping pong. While the name of this game is VR Ping Pong Pro, this is more of a casual sports simulation game than an accurate sports simulation game that will help you prepare for the World Ping Pong Championships. The different game modes allow you to play different arcade-style scenarios where you're practicing against a moving wall, trying to hit the ball and land it on a target on the other side of the table, or you're able to also play in the World Championships. The game was waiting for another player to show up for us to play against, but that was another game option that we were able to select inside of VR Ping Pong Pro. For player perspective, you'll play this game from the first-person perspective. You'll stay in the first-person perspective throughout the menu, throughout gameplay, throughout everything in the game. You'll be in the first-person perspective. You won't be able to see your hands in the game, but you will see your paddle, which is fine. You don't necessarily need to see much of yourself playing ping pong anyway. But the first-person perspective is how this game is played. The theme and story of this game falls a lot on the theme side without very much story at all, and that's fine. Sports simulation games typically don't have storylines, but this one has a simulation sports theme that allows you to play in two different scenarios. One of them is the arcade mode, where it's really focused on small ping pong type games where you're trying to hit a target or hit a moving wall or knock down cans on the other side of the ping pong table. The other game mode is more of a tournament style game mode where you're playing against an opponent, whether it's an AI opponent or a real life opponent that you're playing on some sort of global network. The controls of this game are very straightforward. You will use the trigger to select things in the menu, and you'll use the trigger of the opposite hand that's holding the paddle to drop the ball before you hit it. We did find, though, that the controls in this game were very frustrating at times because of the lag in the graphics response to your physical movement. And there didn't seem to be a very accurate mapping for that for us. When you compare this game to games like Racket Fury, where the physics are very closely mapped to what you're doing from the real world into the virtual world, this game looks like it has a lot of potential and a lot of areas to grow in order to match that kind of accuracy when it comes to game physics. Overall, the controls were very easy to learn, but they were quite difficult to master. We felt like we were compensating for some deficiencies that were present in the way the game was implemented. For music and sound, this game is really absent a soundtrack or any sort of music that you can play along to. But the audio experience when you're in these different scenes was actually great. You could hear a sports being broadcast on a radio from some guy sitting in the alleyway next to you where you're playing ping pong. That was really great. You could hear people walking by you as you're playing ping pong surrounded by a koi pond in one of the scenes. These environments were populated with some really great audio that we felt were really satisfying to play ping pong in. In fact, because the gameplay was getting somewhat frustrating and it wasn't that captivating, we just started looking around the different scenes to enjoy the scenery and enjoy the environment. They were really well done, and the audio is what made them really come out as something to pay attention to. For player movement, you'll play this game in a standing position, but it should be played at room scale so that you can move from right to left while playing the game. This game, along with all other ping pong style games that we've played, violates one of the most important things of VR, and that is don't tell the player to go outside of the Guardian. This happened to us in Racket Fury, this happened to us in this game, and it happened in several other games where it encourages you, based on the AI's response to your gameplay, to reach outside of your play area. In fact, we got bloody knuckles in one other ping pong game because the AI response to one of our hits had us reaching beyond our play area to hit the ball back. Well, our play area is mapped to an actual wall. And so the Guardian, if breached, means you will be hitting into a wall. This happened in this game, and we were smart enough not to reach beyond the Guardian, but the only way to compete is to hit the ball back. And if the AI is telling you that you need to hit the ball back by reaching beyond the Guardian, this becomes a very big problem and a dangerous problem. And so this game is also a violator of that very important safety measure that needs to be built into games like this one. For motion sickness, you won't experience any of it in this game. Your movements in the real world are very well mapped to your movements in the virtual world. As a result, you will not be feeling motion sick while playing this game, which is a very welcome element for any VR title to have minimal or no motion sickness. For environment and immersion, we felt very immersed in this game, but not because of the gameplay. We felt immersed in this game because the game developers did a really great job creating immersive environments where you are playing ping pong. The core focus of the game is to play ping pong. The name of the game is VR Ping Pong Pro, but the best part about the game isn't the gameplay. The best part is the environments that you're playing in. We really hope that the game developers start focusing a lot more on the gameplay itself, the physics response when the paddle hits the ball, the physics of the ball flying. It was very hard to master it. It was very difficult to know how hard to swing your paddle to get the right type of response from the ball when you were hitting it across the table. A great example of this type of physics being implemented well is Racket Fury. You really feel like you are hitting the ball. You really feel like the ball is responding as a ping pong ball would. And so the environment was awesome. The immersion when looking at the scenes was very great. The immersion when you look around in these scenes was top notch. The gameplay is what kind of broke the experience. And if this is the focus of it, then this has a lot of potential and a lot of work to be done to achieve higher scores in gameplay. All right, so let's look at the scorecard for VR Ping Pong Pro, starting with story and theme. For story and theme, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. That's a little bit above average. There wasn't much of a story here. The theme was simulated sports, simulated arcade games for ping pong. But as you get into this game, it seems like there's a lot of potential and a lot of area where there needs to be some refinement, some growth. A lot of gameplay refinements definitely need to be put in place. So a 6 out of 10 for theme and story. For controls, we're giving this game a 5 out of 10. That is a very average score. In fact, it's right in the middle. We do like the control bindings. The release of the ping pong ball with one hand and swinging with the other is very simple and very natural. The problem here isn't in the selection of controls, but in the implementation of the controls. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be done here. The physics engine, as well as the responsiveness of your movements in VR, have a lot of work to be done to get this game a higher score. So a 5 out of 10 for controls. For music and sound, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. This is above average, but there's a lot of potential here. There's not a lot of music in the game, and the scenes that you play in have some additional audio added to them. But in all reality, they were more of a distraction than an addition to gameplay. So a 6 out of 10 for music and sound. For player movement, we're giving this game a 7 out of 10. This is a good score for player movement. The movements that you made in the real world were very well mapped to the movements that you made in the virtual world. The area for improvement here is mapping the movement of your paddle and the movement of the ball properly, and also the safety thing that we discussed, which this game is a violator of. We were continually asked to reach beyond our guardian to hit a returning ball, and for us, and maybe a lot of other people, that's a dangerous move when your guardian is lined up with an actual wall. So a 7 out of 10 for player movement. For motion sickness, this game is getting a perfect score of a 10 out of 10. You do not get motion sick while playing this game, which is a very welcome feature of any VR title. Zero motion sickness gets a perfect score of a 10 out of 10. For environment and immersion, we're giving this game a 5 out of 10, which is an average score, and that has a lot to do with the immersive elements of the game had nothing to do with the core gameplay. And if the core gameplay were to improve, then this environment and immersion score would improve. The environments you played in were very immersive. They were great to be in. The audio was fantastic there, but they didn't add to the actual core purpose of the gameplay, which was ping pong. So as a result, 5 out of 10 for environment and immersion. And for the overall score for VR Ping Pong Pro, it's a 6.5 out of 10. This is well above average, and this game is not a bad game, it's a new game. And there's a lot of things the developers, I'm sure, are ready to improve in this game to enhance it even further. We're excited to see what those are. We love these ping pong titles. We love playing against a competitive AI and beating AI in a ping pong match. But the game has some work to do on the controls and in the game physics, and we're looking forward to what the game developers come up with for future updates. This has been 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you can be notified tomorrow when we release another VR game review. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.